welcome everybody back to the Inside Our Galaxy podcast. I'm your host, Eric Hernandez. As always, we got to talk about our 2-0 loss that happened over the weekend against FC Dallas in Dallas. Haven't gotten a result, or at least a win over there, since 2015. It's been 10 years since we've gotten a win over there, and who knows if we'll ever get one back. But, I mean, we'll see, I guess. But we're going to talk about that game. We'll see how it, give our thoughts and our opinions about that game. Of course, we're going to talk about some LA Galaxy news, and we have two previews this week, one against Colorado at home and one against Portland Timbers, also at home. So big week at home at Dignity Health Sports Park. So we're going to talk about that, give our thoughts, opinions about those games. And right now we are recording at night, so it is Inside Our Galaxy after hours, or well, at least while we're recording. But still though, it's a different perspective from the podcast. But anyways, glad you're all here. And with me as always is my co-host, LA Galaxy Central. How you doing, man?
I'm doing really good. Obviously, yesterday was really disappointing with how the Galaxy did, but at least today England choked another final, which obviously I love to see. That was very good. And the Copa America, absolutely crazy too. Just a complete disaster, honestly, outside the stadium, a ton going on. So, I mean, yeah, we had two major finals today. That was very fun to watch. We also had Ventura County, so that was pretty cool too. So, it's been a pretty good day, honestly. I've enjoyed it. Definitely seeing England lose was definitely the highlight of my day for sure.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we had two international finals today, the Euros and the Copa America. So congrats to Spain and Argentina for their respective tournaments. But yeah, I mean, obviously a wild weekend. Just in general for soccer in life, presidential candidates almost, getting assassinated. I mean, just a wild week. I mean, weekend for sure. But obviously we're here to talk about sports, here to talk about soccer and specifically the LA Galaxy. So obviously just a wild weekend. And also not to mention that the top three teams in the West all lost today. So, that's another thing that happened, which is pretty crazy. So we'll get into that and talk about, of course, the game against FC Dallas. So let's get right into that one. Like I mentioned earlier on, a 2-0 loss against FC Dallas. Haven't won since 2015. It's been a long time since we've gotten a win over there. And of course, we lost again this weekend. Obviously, again, I mean, we knew going into this game it was going to be a tough game because because we haven't gotten a win over there, because, like we mentioned, weather and things like that. And just in general, FC Dallas just still having some players to compete, even though, in the standings it might not show it, but still, we end up getting a 2-0 loss, a different formation, going into this game, a lot of different things that we tried out in this game, but, how'd you feel about the result against FC Dallas? What are your thoughts about that? And break it down for me.
Yeah, obviously after the Rose Bowl, you said like our performance, it looked like we didn't want to put up a fight and like we looked like we didn't show up, which I kind of pushed back on. I didn't agree upon. I said like we did put up a fight, we just tactically got it wrong. Well, I think for this game, if you made that same point right now, that's a perfectly valid point. We really did not show up. We didn't put up any fight. We didn't really have any structure. We really didn't have any urgency. And you're really starting to see that this team does not have a lot of depth. We don't have a lot of players. We're still a very thin roster. Now that we're kind of going into the summertime, we're starting to pick up a lot of injuries now. We don't really have guys we can put in there that will produce the same quality. And yeah, it was very tough to watch, honestly. We went with the false nine to start off with. That didn't work. You went with Miguel Berry. He offered nothing. The attack offered nothing. The midfield offered nothing. The defense was disorganized. The subs were not high quality. Just a very bad performance, honestly. Our third pretty shit game in a row that we didn't play very well. And honestly, I think we need Leagues Cup break. I think we need that time to stop regular season games because right now, I don't think we have the squad to compete for this. And it looks like we're really struggling. And this week's going to be, another very big test with, still some key absences for us at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, this was a game probably respectively was more where we did not show much at all in this game. Like we mentioned, there was no fight as much in this game. It was pretty flat from the team overall. Just hardly any chances. Like, I mean, it really didn't look like they were trying to get anything out of that game. And I understand that Dallas is a tough place to play at. I mean, not only just because the fact that we haven't won since 2015, but again, just the weather and, the team. And it was a hot day that day. They got hydration breaks in that day. And honestly, just again, it looked flat. You didn't see the energy from that team. You haven't seen the energy that we've seen this past really like couple weeks, maybe you can say a month. Like we haven't seen that energy from that we've been seeing recently. And even with the Rose Bowl game, like you still got to see some energy in that game, even despite the fact that we lost. Like this was a game where you didn't see much energy. I mean, the guys looked gassed. I mean, and like you mentioned, we had some key players out. No Dejan Joveljic in this game. No Julian Auda in this game. So obviously you have two key players out in this game, and that also changed the trajectory of the game and the factors of the game. So there was a lot of things that I guess didn't go in our favor, and clearly we just didn't get a result. But I mean, still though, like in terms of the performance, we didn't really see much, and I think that's pretty disappointing overall. I mean, obviously, the result isn't great either. Like we dropped points, and I guess even though the other two teams that are ahead of us dropped points as well, that didn't really, you can take that as like a negative thing as well. It's because it's like, well, we didn't take advantage when the other two teams, dropped points as well. Like if we would have gotten a result in this game, that would have been massive as well. So, I mean, just in general though, like it's pretty disappointing. I mean, again, it's just no fight. And again, you could say maybe this could be a one-off thing, but still though, like that this team didn't have the energy that I was hoping for. And especially when, there was things that I guess weren't going our way, because we have shown adversity before, but still though, no energy in this game. And just like, again, it just wasn't there for the team.
Can't even put it on the coach, honestly. I just think the players aren't exactly good enough. Like, we tried Diego Fagundes at the false nine. That did not work at all. He just was not involved, was getting easily marked by the center back. So it looked like at halftime we had to sub on a striker. We sub on Miguel Berry. He offers absolutely nothing. So if you're Greg Vanney, you're trying to work with the pieces that you have at the moment, but nothing seems to be working. I mean, even in his position, like, I don't know what he could have done to make this better, because I just think we didn't have the players, honestly. And, the summer window opens in 1 week. We have 2 more games until, the Leagues Cup. And then, after the Leagues Cup, it's like we would have our summer signings in here for the rest of the regular season. So for the next 2 games, Vanny has to, try to find answers. And it's very difficult because either players are injured or we just don't have the depth that we need right now.
I mean, I don't know if it's not necessarily the depth that we don't have. I mean, obviously there is some, depth, I guess, we could still work on it, but I think it was just more of the fact that we just didn't have, like, even our key players didn't really step up. I mean, Gabriel Peck, who's been, sensational this past month, didn't look that great in this game either. Joseph Payne still struggles. Ricky Puig, I mean, he, still kind of had some moments where he didn't look good either. So it's like even your DPs didn't necessarily look good in this game. So like you still had your players, you still had some key players in this game, and and again, there's been moments where we have stepped up, and seemingly nobody stepped up in this game, and again, like that, it's just, again, we didn't have the energy, it looked flat. And also mentioning Diego Fagundes, like we tried something new, and I think a lot of people wanted that. So I guess a lot of people wanted to see Diego Fagundes in that false nine position, which again, it didn't work. We didn't have the opportunities. Also, the first loss that he had starting a game. So, I mean, there you go. That streak is over now, with Diego Fagundes. But still though, like you had some players, you still could have competed in this game, even though you had a couple key players out, but you still had your DPs in this game. You still had some, most of your squad in this one. So I don't know if it's necessarily a depth issue. I will say that the positions that got affected were probably our most important ones. Especially in the striker position. So I guess that's more of an argument you can say, but I don't know if it's necessarily entirely our depth. But I think the positions that got affected definitely were the ones that affected us in this game for sure.
I mean, yeah, I've already said a lot about Miguel Berry, and honestly, I mean, I don't know, man. It's just like having Zubac back. It gives me the same vibes. Very similar player, very similar skill sets. I just don't think he offers much. And when you want a natural 9, it's like, he's not really doing anything for you. And it feels like he's just playing like above his level in this league, really. Which Greg Vanney said after the postgame, after there was reports a few weeks ago about the Galaxy having no interest in getting a number 9, that it could be a possibility. So, that's something we could keep an eye on. Hopefully it does happen. But, for the next 2 games, it looks like Joveljic is out again. We have to find solutions there. And we can discuss that more in the players, what those might be. But Yeah, obviously what we tried just didn't work, and I can't even put it on the coach. It's like we just did not have the players at that nine position to be able to, get something going there.
Yeah, definitely for sure. I mean, obviously, I think, like I've said before, I think a lot of people wanted to see Diego Fagundes in like that nine or false nine position. So I don't even think like trying that was necessarily
I did
bad.
too.
But yeah, so it's like at least we tried it, but it didn't work. We were forced to use Miguel Berry in the second half, and again with Miguel Berry, we have really nothing. He has nothing much to offer, and so that's just the bad part about it. And it's unfortunate that Dejan has been having some injury issues as well because this is what his second, third time he's already missing time this season. Like, I mean, this is like, like at least he's producing this year. Like that's a good thing. But if the fact is, if Dejan Jovic can't be sustainable for a whole season, then you have to go for that, second striker in the window. Like, I mean, it was kind of again when we talked about the news saying that they weren't necessarily considering it, it was just like, how do you not consider it? Like, obviously, not only just with the second option that you have, but also just the fact that Dejan Jovic hasn't been healthy the whole season. So like that's another thing you have to consider is Dejan's availability rate. And again, he's been producing. That's good, but if you're not the best, ability is availability. That's a saying that goes around in sports. And clearly, Dejan hasn't been available this whole season, and you can tell when Dejan's not in the field that we haven't necessarily been at our best. And even though I guess a lot of people have somewhat still of their criticism with Jovic and saying, oh, he's only a tap-in merchant or whatever or not, it's like he still contributes. He still finds ways to build in with the plays and whether he scores or not. And so it's just like that's another important factor. And again, it's not necessarily his production, it's the availability, and you have to figure out, you have to find somebody who's going to be available for you for the rest of the season. And, I think we're now, what, 10 games, away from the regular season, right? Like, I could be wrong there, but still though, it's like there's still a lot of, still some games left and definitely some important games left in the season. And you got to find, you know, got to find someone in the window who's going to like, be there for at least for the rest of the season. But for Dejan, like, I mean, it's a bit disappointing that he gets injured. And again, we gotta find a solution. And unfortunately, we gotta roll with what we rolled, or not necessarily roll with what we did in Dallas, but we gotta find another solution to really keep us in games, especially in that nine position.
So what I would say about the second striker position is we could have done something over the winter to make this a lot better. Just to name some of the MLS free agents that were available that we could have maybe gotten on a cheap contract. Fafa Picote was available, Damir Kralik was available, Joseph Martinez was available, Kai Kamara was available. So there was a lot of guys out on the market that we could have brought in that I think would have been willing to come here on a cheap contract. And instead we decided to go with Miguel Berry, and obviously I think he's significantly worse than those guys. So it's like maybe it's not even about making a transfer. Maybe it was about in the wintertime, bringing in one of those guys. And I'm not going to criticize the job Wilkins has done, obviously, but I still think you can look at that and say it's fair that, like, maybe we could have gotten a better player and we had an opportunity to do so when I listed some of the names that I just did.
Yeah, and those are obviously some key free agents that we could have gotten. I mean, listen, and you look at some of those names. Like some of those guys are like still, producing with the clubs that they're with where they're at right now. So it's just like, we could have done something there. Like I always said, like I think bringing Miguel Berry was just not to bring in pressure for Dejan Jovic, which I understand in that aspect because you wanted him to be the guy and to be confident and for him to be confident. So I understand bringing in someone like a Miguel Berry who wasn't necessarily going to, challenge or challenge Dejan for that spot. Like I understand that, but at the same time, it's just like now we're in a position again where I mentioned the injuries and the availability of Dejan Jovic and, and again, still, even when Dejan is available, we just need a spark in our offense. Miguel Berry's not going to give you that spark, and that's the unfortunate thing about it. And so, again, we got to consider something. I don't know what that option is. Once the window opens, whether it's a trade or finding someone, an international player as well. And so it's just like we got to find a solution, and unfortunately we got to wait until like a week or however long we need to wait because we got to find somebody. But in terms of this week, that's going to be a challenge now because it's what do you go with, and especially without Dejan, in the lineup, like it's going to be It's definitely going to be. And again, like I said, I don't think it's a depth issue necessarily. It's the fact of which positions got hit, right now, and that's affecting, I guess that those are the ones that are definitely affecting our depth. Um, but yeah, though, I mean, still though, it's something that the teams definitely got to consider, and hopefully we find an option out there because, again, it's a problem, and we got to find a solution to it. But obviously, any other points you want to talk about the game before we move on into some of the players?
Yeah, I mean, I never really had any life or any hope that we were going to get a goal back in that game. Like, usually when it's 2-0, sometimes we've seen the Galaxy come back, get a goal back, tie up the game. We've even seen them take the lead before. But for this game, like, I never had that level of optimism that they were going to get a goal back. It just felt like we were pretty much lifeless from minute 1 to minute 90. Our performance was shit. Everything was just bad about it pretty much everywhere around the field. And yeah, never really any belief, never really any life. And it just felt very shitty for sure.
I agree with that as well because again, there's been moments in the season where like, and I have felt like the optimism again. It's like, all right, then like we may have gotten scored first or whatever, but I feel confident with the team coming back. But this game was, you didn't have that at all. Like maybe I did a little bit even after the first goal, but then once the game started going on and we didn't have, you weren't doing anything. I think that's where the optimism just kind of went away. And so, yeah, I mean, obviously I agree with that. It's like the optimism kind of just, went away. Like there was no faith, and I think with the way that team performed that day, like I don't think you would really have much optimism, getting a result coming from that game. But I guess we can talk about the players now and talk about why we didn't have the great performance that we didn't have a great performance that day. So let's talk about the players. So obviously, to start off with the defense, you had John McCarthy, you had I'm trying to remember. Didn't the center backs get switched? I don't remember who actually started for center backs. No, it was still Yoshida Neal. So you still had Yoshida Neal. You had John Nelson at your left back because Alde was injured, and then you had Mickey Yamane um, as your right back. So how'd you feel about the defense? Of course, 2 goals scored on us. How'd you feel about the defense that day?
Yeah, obviously not very good. I think John Nelson played a lot worse than he did versus Minnesota, caught out of position for their first goal. That wasn't good at all. I just feel like in general he kind of struggled a little bit more, which wasn't great. The center backs didn't really look good at all. Yoshida looked tired, which is understandable at this point in the season with him not even getting a single minute out of a game until this game. He looked a little bit tired. Neil didn't look great. He kept the player onside for the second goal, failed to step up, so that was a big mistake on his part. And Yamane was okay. McCarthy couldn't really do much, but yeah, just in general, our defense, looked pretty mediocre. It didn't look very good. And yeah, it just wasn't very good overall.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it wasn't good in this game, and I think, yeah, I mean, obviously we made the mistakes that led to those goals, and again, we talk about these mistakes, and and they were Dallas, I guess, deserved those goals, but still though we gotta clean up those mistakes, and again, this was a defense where I don't think you would have like I wouldn't say like, oh, like our defense has been affected a lot because really it was just only one position with John Nelson. And John Nelson still, is a good, backup, even though this game was not good from him, against Dallas. But still though, like I guess you were okay with the defense, but again, it was still like not a good performance by them. And I guess the only ones that did okay was McCarthy and Yamane. And again, like I don't think they really could have done much more. So it's like, and again, I don't think it's just like again, it's just those mistakes that you gotta kind of, I guess, fix up in the defense. But definitely for sure, defensively we weren't that great. So that definitely gotta fix that. And also with Maya Yoshida, it's still very it was kind of surprising that he got subbed out in this game because we saw him play basically every single minute. And now that's stopped in this game as well. So, and again, he looked tired. He deserves a break, and he deserves to get off. And I think at that point in the game, he might as well should have gone off. I don't think we really, again, we wouldn't have done anything. So I guess taking off Yoshida at that point was a smart decision in the sense, just try to get him some sort of a break. So, but yeah, I mean, obviously defense was not that great that night, definitely for sure. But any other points you want to talk about the defense before we move on?
No, not really.
All right, then let's talk about the midfield. So midfield, you had Ricky Pooge, you had Edwin Cerrillo, the hometown kid, obviously coming back to play in Dallas from the Dallas Academy as well. and then you had Mark Delgado. So that was your midfield that week, or that day. And yeah, how did you feel about the midfield? What were your thoughts about that one?
Yeah, I mean, again, not good. Just like the defense, not a very good performance. Surreal looked really poor again, which I just think right now he's going through kind of a rough patch. He's not playing very well. You want to talk about someone that's unavailable? I mean, can you tell me the last time Gaston Brugman started a game for the Galaxy? You could probably count on one hand how many times Brugman has started for the Galaxy this year. I mean, seriously, this guy is, just not available at all. He's been in return to play for about like 2 months now. I mean, where is the guy? So we definitely need Brugman back. Surreal's just not, playing very well right now. Delgado didn't play very good. He just did not, I don't know, he just didn't look very good in my opinion. Pooch did not look very good either. He was not connecting passes. He was turning the ball over a lot. I don't know. It just feels like he's not on the same page as the attack right now as some of the wingers, as some of the midfielders too. Like I just don't think they're clicking right now. I think we need Brugman back, but when is Brugman going to come back? It's been literally forever, and it just seems like we're not progressing. It's kind of frustrating too because it feels like our injury report is only getting bigger, bigger, and bigger, yet we never get guys back. Even a guy like Johnny Perez, like the dude got a hamstring injury like a month and like what, a half ago? And still, it's like you're not seeing him right now. It took Jalen Neal forever to come back. It took Painstall a good amount of time to come back. And even he looks so bad right now. It's just like, it's frustrating, man. It's honestly frustrating, and it's hurting our team right now for sure.
In terms of Gaston Brugman, he's currently not in the United States right now. He's actually in Uruguay because he is in the process of getting his green card. So
I
if you
think
do
he
want to
came
know what,
back.
no, he's still in Uruguay. I'm pretty sure he is still there. And again, green card processes are not quick. So, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he's still in Uruguay. So, but still though, if you want to know where he's at, he was definitely not in the States. So, and again, I don't know if he's back or not, but I mean, considering with a green card process and just immigration in itself, it's just not, it's not an easy process, definitely for sure. But in terms of the midfield in the game, yeah, I mean, obviously it was poor. Like, and again, if you have a bad midfield, that's going to affect a lot into your game. Obviously, Cerrillo was not 100 in this one. Ricky Puig, again, coming off of his injuries and getting back into playing again, was not great. I guess you could say it's still him trying to get back, but even then, turnovers, not getting connected into the offense, not trying to find trying to create the plays that we need to do in order to, create something in this game. And again, he wasn't that great. And Mark Delgado, I guess, I mean, again, Mark Delgado was okay, I guess, but still wasn't much of a factor in this game either. So it's just like, again, it's like the midfield did not play very well in this game, and again, I guess just in general, the team just overall didn't play well. But still, though, the midfield again, if you're not if excuse me, I can't talk. If you don't, if your midfield is not, playing well, again, that's going to affect your game so much. And again, with our midfield, and again with the injuries and not having Gaston in there, and or just in general the performances that are being put out there, it's just if your midfield is not there, it's just that's where you lose the games, and that's where you don't have the possession, you don't have the control, and so again, yeah, this is a game where your midfield did not play well, and I mean, I don't even know. I don't know if I would say that we got outplayed, but definitely for sure, their performance wasn't there to help the team for sure, and so yeah, another bad performance for the defense, definitely for sure. But any other thoughts you want to say about the? I mean, it's a defense midfield, but any other things you want to say about the midfield before we go?
I think we need Bergman back at this point. Like, I just think we need that connection and that chemistry he brings with that midfield trio. I just think at some point we need him back, but unfortunately, it's like he's just not, progressing. And I don't know, man. I don't know how much time it's going to take. Hopefully, after Leagues Cup break, he'll be available, but I've been saying hopefully he's available for the past 2 months. Hasn't happened, so I don't know what to say at this point.
Yeah, I don't know. And again, like he mentioned, he's not here in the States dealing with off field things, and so obviously I guess we can't. That's not in our control. I don't know. And again, maybe Brugman is healthy, but unfortunately, because he had to, I guess, leave for the green card, I guess that's just unfortunate timing. That definitely for sure. But definitely, we could use some Gaston Brugman in this team, and again, have the chemistry that we've always had with that midfield. So definitely got to need him back at some point. But anyways, yeah, midfield. So now let's get into the offense. Offense, you had Gabriel Peck, you had Joseph Paintsil, and like we mentioned, you had Diego Fagundes playing as a false nine in this game. Of course, no goals to show for it. Not much we can say about the offense, I guess. In again, just like the other positions, wasn't necessarily the best. Didn't have the chances to really get the opportunities to score. So, yeah, I mean, how'd you feel about the offense in this game? And and again, we mentioned I guess the Fagundes, I guess, starting thing. But how'd you feel about the offense overall in the night?
Yeah, obviously the offense was very poor. I will say that with starting Diego Fagundes at the false nine, that's something I definitely wanted to see. So I don't blame Vanny for that at all. I think a lot of people wanted to see that, like you said. So it just didn't work out. I mean, that's fine. He tried it. It didn't work out. We eventually brought on Miguel Berry in the second half. That didn't work out either. So, I mean, not much Vanny could really do. And Gabriel Peck didn't really play a good game. He wasn't really effective. But it probably was difficult for him because no one around him was doing anything. And a player, honestly, we could spend a minute or two on if you want to, and I wouldn't mind. Joseph Painsil. I mean, look, man, I'm trying hard to root for this guy to be optimistic. I'm trying to listen to your point of view of like, oh, he's played a lot of games, he's coming off an injury, he's still figuring it out. But as the weeks go on, I mean, it gets harder and harder and harder and harder to watch to a certain point where I'm just like, I can't keep doing this much more, dude. I mean, you're putting in shit performance after shit performance after shit performance after shit performance, and you're a DP player. It's just like, I'm getting frustrated, dude. I'm getting really frustrated. You saw that chance even in the first minute of the game where Paintsel takes a terrible touch, goes off his arm straight to the keeper. That could have been a chance against Minnesota. I mean, bunch of chances wasted to go up 2 goals. LAFC misses that chance in front of goal. I mean, it's just time and time and time again. It's been just so frustrating, so disappointing. And I'll say this too, honestly. I said at the beginning of the season when we signed him, I thought him and Gabriel Peck were going to work really well. I thought the fit was great. It looked great. You had the goal threatening winger and you had the very technical winger. I mean, I'd honestly say it's not working right now. Like, they do not play well together. Have we honestly had a game this year where Paintsel and Peck have played well together? I don't think so. I feel like it's always just one or the other. Paintsel was good, in the first couple months, like month or two, and Peck has been good ever since then, but together, I'm just not seeing it, and it's getting worrying almost. It's getting pretty frustrating, and yeah, I know you're always the optimistic one, like you were with Garces, like, oh, it's developmental, oh, it's this, oh, Paintsel, it's injury, but at a certain point, I'm getting a little bit tired of this. I can't lie.
I completely understand you 100%. And listen, I'll probably still go with the reasoning that I've been going with, but I can't deny the fact that Joseph Paintstil has been not there. Like, I can't
Terrible.
deny his performances. And obviously, to answer your question with have they have a good game together? I think didn't they connect together with the San Jose game for the
That's
first
one
goal?
time though, and San Jose is so bad. Like in the last 3 months, Joseph Paintsel has scored 3 goals, and 2 of them were against San Jose, and one was against Kansas City, the two worst teams in the West. Like, the dude's not showing up for us against decent opponents, or really just at all at the moment. Really,
Okay. But no, I mean, obviously, yeah, he hasn't shown up, and I could mention the him playing a lot of games over the past year, his injury, just having a break in the in the middle of the season. But still, though, him coming back, he's been here for a while now. I mean, I guess we've also had midweek games, a lot in this within this past month, but still, though, can't
always an
deny the
excuse.
performances. Can't deny they're not excuses. They're things that I mean, are they wrong that's happened? I mean, it's not wrong, but I'm not just denying the fact that he has not played well. He has still played a good amount of games where, at this point, you should be back. You should be healthy. You should be,
Something.
going back to what you were in the beginning. But we haven't, or he hasn't. He hasn't shown that. And so I think again, it's like I understand the frustration. I understand that it's building up now, but and again, I don't know what it is, but he's got to step it up. He really has to, and unfortunately, and again, obviously, we're not going to say that he's necessarily a bad DP or necessarily like one of the worst, because obviously we've had worse before. Let's not sugarcoat it either. But it's just like, still though, he's got to step up. If he's getting paid a lot of the money and to perform what we saw early on in the season, and he hasn't done it, like that's just it's concerning, definitely for sure it is. And so like obviously, I can give a million, I guess, reason or excuses like you would like to call them, but I could give a million of those. But at the same time, it's just like you can't deny that he hasn't been there, and I understand the frustration for sure.
I could give a million things that he's done wrong over the last 3 months if I wanted to.
I mean, definitely. I mean, obviously he hasn't been clinical. Like it's not even the fact that he hasn't had the chances. Like he's had chances, and like you mentioned, he had one literally within the first minute of the game, and somehow gets a bad touch, and somehow gets just doesn't do anything there. So it's just like, yeah, like he's had opportunities, and it's just like he hasn't been clinical in those opportunities, and that's something where it's just like, okay, again, like why are like you're in good positions, why aren't you, you know, taking advantage of those positions? It's like it
Ever.
just doesn't, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't go far and saying ever. Like, obviously, he's been clinical, but definitely for sure, since he came back, he definitely hasn't been as clinical as he was in the in the first part of the season.
Yeah, honestly, I would say right now, Joseph Paintsil starting for the Galaxy is kind of similar to me for like Harry Kane starting for England, where it's like he's only starting because he's a DP player. Harry Kane's only starting because, he's this experienced player and brings the leadership. But like, dude, you're hurting the fucking team right now. Like, it's not good. It's not good at all. And he's going to continue to start, but in all honesty, he doesn't deserve to, and that's the truth of it right now.
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely say that, obviously. And you look at Fagundes, who obviously, even though this was his first, loss as a starter, like he still definitely has played much better over the past, couple months. So it's like there's definitely some better options. But again, it's like Joseph Paintsel, like you're gonna still keep playing him because he's a DP player. But it's like, man, you gotta really get in. You really gotta take advantage of the situations you're in, and if you're not, then that's just not helping your case. You're gonna have, people not have the same faith as we had in the beginning of the season. And again, I believe in Joe Payne still, and I'm not saying that, and obviously that's not a play on Joe Henry, but but still though, I believe in Joseph Payne still. I believe in what he has to offer. Obviously, he's shown what he's capable of, but right now he's just not. And again, this is an important part of the season where we're playing a lot of tough games. We're going to start playing Leagues Cup, and we're going to get into the final stretch of the season where you have to be informed. And if you're not informed at this point at the end of the season, like you said, I think it's going to hurt the team. And again, Joseph Painsil still has games to figure it out, but he still hasn't figured it out with the amount of time he's been on the field. So again, he's got to figure out something, whether it's the way he plays, the way he thinks, or just anything. He's got to figure it out, and again, who knows when that'll be, but it just has to happen.
I mean, Joseph Paintsel is supposed to be the goal-threatening winger for the LA Galaxy. And look, in Belgium, he had almost 20 goals, and Belgium's a very good, respectable league. So, okay, great season. It made a lot of sense to sign him, but where are the goals right now? The last 3 months, all he's done is a penalty versus San Jose, a wide-open tap-in versus Kansas City, and a transition goal versus San Jose, the two worst teams in the Western Conference. I mean, where are the goals, dude? Like, we need the goals right now, especially with Joveljic out. And Peck's supposed to be the more technical player. It's like you're supposed to be the goal guy who's getting goals for us. Kind of supposed to be that second striker. Where are the goals, man? Like, we need the goals, and he's not giving it to us at all.
Oh, and again, no, he's not. And again, he's got to find something to step up. He's got to figure it out. And I don't know if it's also a confidence thing with Joseph Paintsel at this point in the season, but again, it's just like, again, this is the part we're getting into the part where we gotta be informed. This isn't now of okay, you're trying to figure it out or you're trying to get used to the league. It's just like, okay, now is where you have to find the form. And again, he's been off for a bit, but again, you still had a lot of chances where you could have done something and you could have shown that you're still back in form, and he clearly hasn't. And so you got to figure it out at some point. And like you mentioned, like, sure, we've had, Gabriel Peck step up. We've had, when Joveljic is healthy, he's, scored goals. When Ricky Puig was, healthy, he's, stepped up. But Joseph Paints, though, even, in those situations hasn't stepped up. And again, it's concerning. And I don't know what's the solution for him to really get back to what he was in the beginning, but he definitely has to, find something, whether it's him or the coaching, whether it's sitting out a couple games or not, he's got to find something definitely for sure.
I mean, look, what do you honestly do? Because you play him at left wing. We saw what he did against Dallas. He did absolutely nothing. He wasn't even taking players on or really sort of offering anything. You put him at striker, which apparently he was a natural striker, even though, I mean, he was terrible when he played there. He just drifted out of position. And I mean, I would say this about the striker too in the Dallas game in the first half. I mean, what was the plan at striker? We had Fagundes as the false nine, but even he went out wide so much. It was so confusing. We had Fagundes at the false nine. We had Paintsel at the false nine. We had Delgado go into the false nine. We had Yamane go into the false nine. We had Ricky Pooch go into the false nine. We probably had somebody else go in there too. I just named like 5 guys that I saw in the first half playing the false nine role. I mean, that it's chaotic, it's disorganized. It's like Copa America shithousery, honestly. Just all throw it out there. Whatever the fuck happens. I mean, that's not gonna win you games at all, and you saw that in the first half. And we tried Paintsell at striker. It didn't work. He drifted out, so you can't play him at left wing. You can't play him at striker. You play him at right wing, well, then you limit Gabriel Peck's effectiveness. And he's been super good at that right wing spot, which is kind of why I'm not only concerned about Paintsell with the way he's playing, I'm concerned about his fit on the team. It doesn't look good, honestly. And unfortunately, I don't see solutions at all. And I mean, we're not the coaches. We don't get paid to figure that out, but somebody has to figure it out, and I just don't see how we're going to do that.
Yeah, and I was actually going to ask you, like, what would you want to see that would you think that would make Joseph Paintsell better? But I mean, still though, it's like, yeah, it's like again, somebody's got to figure it out. Whether it's him, whether it's Vanny, whether it's just somebody. It's just like, and again, I think he's still a talented player. I still think he has a lot to contribute, but it's just that he hasn't contributed at all within this past month. So,
3 months.
What is that? Yeah, 3 months because counting the time he's missed out and just the playing time, like he hasn't really offered much. So, yeah, I mean, honestly, it's just I don't know. Something's got to get figured out. Again, if it's a confidence thing, if it's a tactical thing, if it's a fit problem, that's just got something we got to figure out. But definitely, Joseph Paintsell is a topic of conversation, and and I think it'll keep going if he doesn't really show much for the team. But still, though, I mean, but again, even we can go on with Joseph Paintsell, but obviously he wasn't the only guy on the offense. Obviously, we didn't see much from Diego Fagundes. We didn't see much from Gabriel Peck in this game either. Even though he's been showing up over the past month or so, it's just like, again, the whole offense as a whole did not show up in this game. And again, we can mention Joseph Paintsell if we want, as I guess from this point on in the season, but still, in terms of this game, not much you can say from the offense in general, even if we can go on about Joseph Paintsell. So, I mean, again, not the night for everybody. It really wasn't our night. And again, a team that just looked flat, didn't have the energy, didn't have the right, maybe not necessarily even the right mindset, but just still, it's just like a team that just didn't have, I guess, what it takes to go and win that game in that week. So, yeah, I mean, obviously we just didn't see much from it. But, I mean, anything else you want to mention from the offense or anything from the team in general before we move on?
Yeah, I mean, obviously this performance was terrible. I think we were going to lose regardless. But I mentioned Joseph Paintsell because he's been terrible for months now. It's not only about this game. This is a player that I'm looking at and I'm saying like he's going down and down and down. And like I said, I want this guy to succeed. The way he played the first 2 months of the season, he played very good. I was very happy with what we were getting out of him. But, as the weeks go on, it's getting more frustrating, and I definitely need to see more, and I think everybody needs to see more. I think he even expects to be producing more.
Oh, no, yeah, definitely for sure. Joseph Paintsell is not happy with what he's doing. He's a guy who, and I think even early on in the season where he had a really rough game, he was, remember that one game where he walked off into the tunnel early on into the game. Like, he was not happy with his performance, and I'm pretty sure he's not happy now. He's a competitive guy. He's a competitor. He's been, in the sport for, a while now. So, like, he's a competitive guy. He wants to, contribute to the team, and I'm pretty sure he knows he's not contributing to what he needs to be. So this isn't even just him, like, thinking, like, oh, like, he knows it himself. Like, he knows that he needs to perform better. And again, whether it's he needs to figure it out, whether it's the coaching staff needs to figure out how to get the production that we got in the beginning of the season, there needs to be a solution. What that solution is, I don't know, but that's yet to be determined. And again, I believe in Joe Paintsell, and I hope he figures it out, and I hope that, we have to keep talking about him and the fact that he hasn't been producing. I don't want him to be that guy. I really don't, because there's always that one guy that we got to talk about every week, right? And I don't want Joseph Paintsell to be that guy from going on from this point in the season. Yeah. But any other final thoughts you want to talk about the game before we move on?
Yeah, obviously very forgettable for sure. Never really had any life, never really any fight. Just very bad overall. I would just say with the subs too, like we were down 2-0 and our subs were a center back and a Ventura County player. I mean, is there really anything else to say? Like, I disagree with your point where you said depth is not really an issue on this team. Like, I think it is. We don't have a lot. Like, yes, at certain areas we do have depth, and I agree at that. But, You look at striker, I mean, Miguel Berry, is that an MLS quality piece? I mean, not really. For Mark Delgado, we don't even have a backup for him because Daniel Aguirre left. And I don't know, like at center back, you don't really have much depth either. You have bodies, but you don't trust any of them. Caceres is too old. You don't want to play him often. Zavaleta's not good enough. And it feels like we don't have confidence in Garces. He's been here, what, like three and a half months now? I mean, how much playing time has he got? This is the first time he's gotten more than 5 minutes. This Dallas game, and realistically, that was almost garbage time because we knew it was over. So it's like we don't have good center back solutions. We don't have a good striker. You know, at midfield, we're pretty thin because we have injuries and we can't get guys healthy. And same for winger with Perez. It's like we don't have a squad right now to compete in these games at this point in the season, which is why I said the Galaxy really need Leagues Cup break. But unfortunately, we still got 2 more games. At least they're at home, but it's tough, man. It's tough, which is why we need Joseph Panto. Like, dude, you're supposed to be one of our best players. And with a roster that's thin right now, we really need you now more than ever. And it's like, we're not getting the production out of him. Ricky Puig, I'm not going to let him off the hook either. He's not played very well lately. Gabriel Peck has been really good, but I mean, again, it's going to be difficult. We'll get into the previews, but it's not looking good right now.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, like, this team just needs to step up. And, you talk about this game being forgettable, and I hope that's the same for the team, right? They got to just forget about this game. Like, this just wasn't their night, wasn't the performance, and again, you got to move on, move forward. Can't let this one really sit down and linger too much. And again, it's a quick turnaround. We got a game on Wednesday, which we'll talk about, I guess, after the Galaxy news portion. But still, though, it's just, got to step it up, definitely for sure. We're getting into a point of the season where we need to step up. We need to be in form. And again, this isn't the point where we just have to figure it out. No, this has to be the point where you have to say, this is who I am. This is the player that I am. This is how the team is going to perform. This is how this team operates. And if we don't find a solution for that, then I think that's just, that's definitely, a concern for sure. But, definitely for this game, got to move forward for it. Not our night, definitely for sure. But let's talk about some Galaxy news. I know we talked a little bit about some stuff, I guess, during that game, during the recap and stuff, but obviously we mentioned injuries before. Dejan Joveljic not being available for this and, needing a second striker at some point. That's, I guess, part of the news. Of course, Julian Alde is going to be out for a while. That's, some injury news. And like I mentioned with Gaston Brugman finding his, having to, I guess in the process of his green card, which also is something, I guess, in a sense positive now as well, because now that doesn't require an international spot. So that's something that you can take positive from Gaston Brugman getting that green card. So that's another thing that we can, that's something positive for I guess, roster mobility for sure. So that's definitely a good thing for us as well. But yeah, obviously those were some injury stuff and, player, I guess player, update. Let's talk about, I guess, some other stuff, I guess, outside of the field. Obviously, there was some news about the stadium improvements that we are getting next year. Change seats, gray, blue seats now. I guess some upgrades in the more expensive parts like the cabanas, the VIP lounges and the sideline seats. So obviously we're getting a lot of upgrades next year for the Galaxy, which we normally don't really talk about, I guess, the stadium. And I know we've talked about, stadium, about Dignity Health Sports Park and the state of it, outside of the podcast. But obviously, like, how do you feel about these improvements that we're getting in the stadium? Like, are you, I guess, somewhat excited? Do you think these are good improvements? Like, how do you feel about those?
I mean, I don't know how excited I can be because I won't really be in the stadium that much next year. So, I mean, I don't know how excited I can be about that. But I don't know. It just kind of feels like baby steps a little bit. I've been very vocal about I'm not a fan of Dignity Health Sports Park. I think it's an outdated MLS venue. You look at a lot of teams around us, too, like, San Diego's getting a new stadium soon. San Jose got a new stadium in 2015. LAFC got a new stadium in 2018. So it kind of feels like we're the team playing in the outdated stadium a little bit. And around the league, too, like New York's getting a new stadium. New England's looks like they're getting a new stadium. Miami's getting a new stadium. You see all these new teams, St. Louis, Nashville. It just feels like in terms of modern MLS, our stadium's completely outdated. And I just don't know. I'm not a fan of Dignity Health Sports Park. I never really have been that much, especially recently. And yeah, the changes are okay, but I mean, just to be honest, like I'd rather see us build a new stadium instead of just trying to keep this one alive. We're fighting, just to keep this holding up and keeping it, trying to make it better. I just feel like at a certain point, you just got to do it the Columbus Crew. You just got to let it go and, find, a new location and a new place. And it's ultimately great for everybody. It would be great for the Galaxy, great for the atmosphere, great for the rivalry games, great for the fan experience. But unfortunately, it looks like we're stuck doing these renovations. So, hopefully they do the right ones. But yeah, I've been pretty on it for a while. I'm just not a fan of the stadium in general.
Yeah, obviously there's a lot of discussions with the stadiums, and I know we've talked about it before off the podcast and I guess off camera. But like, yeah, like obviously I don't think we're gonna leave Dignity Health Sports Park anytime soon, but I definitely think that it is an outdated stadium. It is very bare bone, compared to a lot of the other stadiums out there. Even with like some of those MLS teams that even share NFL stadiums, and things like that. Obviously, we're not going to share stadium with an NFL team, but still, though, it's like you gotta I guess you gotta update it. And I do like the seats. I do like the fact that they are remodeling some parts of the I guess the game day experience. Like I think that's a lot of things a lot of people were asking for. But I definitely agree. It's like this stadium is not. I mean, I guess you could say it almost is not what it used to be. Obviously, we've had success in the stadium. It is the stadium where you can say that that Donovan, Keane, Beckham, have built in this, in a sense. Like it's a stadium definitely for sure that has a lot of history to it, but at the same time, I think we gotta look at it, and like you said, you gotta look at it the Columbus Crew way. Like although Maffrey Stadium was a historic stadium for them, at the end of the day, it was very outdated. It was very bare boned as well, and they now moved into Lower.com Field, and that's a really nice stadium as well. And so we got to do the same, I think, in my opinion. But still, though, with these upgrades, I definitely think it's a step in the right direction. But we got to definitely I think we do got to consider a stadium, like a full, complete stadium renovation, in my opinion, or build a new one if you want to. But you got to definitely think about that at some point.
Dude, playing in a new stadium would be awesome though. Imagine the Galaxy had a stadium like City Park or Q2 Stadium with the atmosphere. I mean, it would work too because those stadiums hold around 21 to 22,000 people. Our attendance is around like 22, 23,000. So it would sell out over the weekends. That place would be popping. It would be super loud. The supporter sections would be full. The stadium would be full. When you look at our average attendance, it would be really loud. The chants would be really good. If it was in a better location too, like some people mentioned Long Beach with all the restaurants around, the vibe is cooler. I just want a new stadium, man. Like, you got to look at the Columbus Crew and DC perspective, like you said. Like, they had these old stadiums, but to be completely honest, it felt outdated, and they built new venues, and especially for the Columbus Crew, it's worked out super well for them. The atmosphere got better, the fan experience got better, and yes, I can appreciate they're trying to save it, they're trying to make it, a little more up to date. I just feel like it's kind of, out of date a little bit. And imagine what it would do for the rivalry games too. Like if we had LAFC in that stadium and the Galaxy in a new stadium where the atmosphere is insane, it would make it so much better too. And there's just a lot of things I don't like about the Dignity Health Sports Park, the location, some of the fan atmosphere, the fact that there's no roof to, keep the chants inside. It would just be so much fun. It would be so awesome. It would generate so much money with Messi, the Apple TV deal. It would go up, but it looks like they're not considering it. But yeah, I'm just not a huge fan, but we got to work with what we have at the end of the day.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, they could, look at the Laker route, right? Like obviously they used to play in the Forum with the Showtime Lakers, with Magic Johnson, with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Like that was a historic venue for those. A lot of history in that venue, but that was also outdated. They go into the Staples Center and look at the success they've had there with Kobe and Shaq, and obviously, I guess you could say right now with LeBron a little bit when they won the championship. So it's like, it's like obviously you can look at the Laker route. Like it's worked out for them. It's like, yeah, like sure, like you've had a historic venue, but you can still go make history in a new one. Like, like it doesn't have to be the same venue. And I understand like a lot of, teams and sports around the world, keep the same venue that they've had since the beginning. Like, for example, like the Green Bay Packers with Lambeau Field and how much they've renovated that stadium, examples like that. So it's like, I understand like you want to keep the same home intact, but and again, I mean, I don't mind being in Carson. Like, I don't mind if they completely renovate that stadium, but whatever direction they go, I think you got to find a new solution and a more modern solution for the team, definitely for sure. But again, with some of these small upgrades, I guess they're they're okay for now.
Just imagine like a newer stadium in like the Water Walk in Long Beach though, with all the restaurants, all the bars around. Wouldn't that just be like a cooler vibe though? Like I'd enjoy that a lot more, and I feel like it would just be more fun. The atmosphere would be a lot better. The stadium looks a lot more modern. It looks super nice. It looks full. The team, has a lot of energy. It would just be really good, man. It would be so good. Like that's something I'm kind of thinking, hoping happens in like maybe like a 10-year window. Maybe could be a possibility. Definitely not the next 5 years. I think the next 5 years, like we'll probably be at Dignity Health Sports Park. But just like at some point, like at some time, like I want it to happen. I really do want it to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's something they got to consider for sure, and they've had in the past. I think I was actually having a talk in a group chat. Apparently the before COVID there was also ideas of possibly moving to downtown, like near the Staples Center as well. I think they were trying to get rid of the part of the convention center so they can have space to build a new stadium. That didn't go to plan because of COVID. So like there was options that they were exploring for sure, but and again, I think they still have options. They could still have some options, but obviously, stadium has a lot of politics in it. Are you gonna privately build it? Are you gonna have taxpayer money? Are you gonna have, there's a bunch of politics going into building a new stadium. Obviously, there's a lot of things that go into that. It's not easy for people to get new stadiums. I mean, look at New York. I mean, they for them when they came into the league, it was only they supposedly said it was going to be like a 2 year thing before they get a new stadium, and look at where they're at now. It's like it's been like what, almost like 10 years since they got that they're finally getting a stadium, and even then, you still got to wait till 2027 for them, right? So it's like obviously there's a lot of politics that go into building a new stadium, and that's why sometimes renovating the one that you have could still work. I mean, obviously, again, there's a lot of options that you can do in terms of stadium, but for sure, there's a lot of politics to it too, and what you decide to do with a stadium for sure.
Someday, man. Someday, hopefully, we can get a new one, but we'll see about that.
Yeah, someday. But hey, you know what? We're getting some improvements, so I guess that's something. But anyways, yeah, that's a little bit of some stuff. Ventura County update, actually. Obviously recording on Sunday, so I guess today, they did have a game. They had a El Trafico, or I don't know if it's called El Trafico in the MLS Next Pro version, because obviously, Ventura County and where LAFC 2 played isn't necessarily easy access, but still though it's a rivalry game. We end up winning in PKs. We end up tying 1-1. We end up getting, and like I said, we end up getting the win through PK. So obviously a good thing for tonight for the boys, right? I mean, we're getting a rivalry win. Even though we couldn't get it with the first team, but at least the MLS Next Pro team is getting a rivalry win. Are you happy about that?
Yeah, I was pretty happy about that. The only thing that was disappointing though is at the 91st minute, Bibu had a PK to win the game and he missed it. So he could have gotten 3 points instead of two and not give any to LAFC. But we still get the 2 points. We only hold them to one. We get the shootout win. That's really good. We're 7-0 in shootouts now, which is just crazy to think. I mean, it has to be a thing where we've played in so many shootouts. We're just super good at them now. I mean, we're very good at shootouts. And the last 5 out of 6 games, 5 of those games have gone to penalty shootouts and we won all of them. So basically every game the last 6 games has gone to a penalty shootout and we're always winning them. So I guess it's good. We're getting the extra point, which is good. We're getting 2 points. We're still top three in the Western Conference, which is good. Obviously the game was an away game in Fullerton, which was kind of weird to watch, but yeah, it was good. It was definitely really good for sure. Good 2 points for sure. Definitely disappointed to not win at the end, but still a solid 2 points. And keep in mind, they're still missing players too. Like they're still missing Perez, Vivi's gone, Ruben Ramos with the Galaxy, Parentius with the Galaxy. So even shorthanded, this team still finds ways to get results, which is a kind of a statement that they have really good coaching on that team. And I think Matt Taylor has done a really good job, which I said before.
Yeah, and also not only just good coaching, but I guess you could say also good depth in a sense, or at least building their depth. So that's a good thing too. Some things that the first team's not necessarily doing right now. So I guess that's a good thing for Ventura County, and obviously getting the win against a rival, right? And against I kind of find it funny how LAFC 2 play in Fullerton, and they're still like LAFC. It's like I don't know. I just find that funny. It's like Fullerton's not necessarily the heart of LA, but I guess you can you could be called whatever you're called, but still, though, yeah, it's good that Ventura County keeps getting some results, whether it's PK shootouts or wins, or straight out wins. But of course, yeah, I mean seven in a row, like or seven. Yeah, yeah, I guess not seven in a row. It was just seven shootouts, one, right? Like just not like completely won the ones that they've done this season, right?
Yeah, 7-0. They played in 7 shootouts, won all 7 of them.
Yeah, so that's pretty crazy. I guess the more you do it, the more you get better at it, and that's a weapon, I guess, for Ventura County, right? Especially with those rules in MLS Next Pro. So that's actually really good for them that they're, I guess they're, I don't know, I don't know if they would necessarily be one of the best teams, because I don't know if any other teams are better in PKs, but definitely that's an impressive stat nonetheless. So definitely a good thing for Ventura County, and for sure a weapon when they ever go into PKs. So but yeah, that's a Ventura County update. I don't think I'm missing anything in Galaxy News, unless you can think of anything.
Honestly, one more thing I'd say about Ventura County though is that like it was something I kind of thought about. Like if we were in the playoffs, would we call up Brady Scott to have him on the bench to go in for a potential penalty shootout? Because seriously, 7-0, and he's so good at saving penalties. He's a big body. He's very intimidating. He's very good at reading where the kicker's going. Like I think that could be actually like a real thing we should consider, because that's how good he is at saving PKs if that were to happen at any sort of point.
Um, I mean, if he's really that good, like, I mean, obviously the level in MLS Next Pro is definitely different from, obviously MLS in general. But I mean, still though, like, I mean, he's making a case. I mean, maybe that could be an option. Maybe he's making a case for the first team as well. But maybe that could be an option. Who knows? Because obviously, I don't even think we've stopped the penalty at all this season. The first team, not that I can recall of. Have we stopped the penalty? No, right? No. Yeah. So exactly. So maybe that could be a key solution into the playoffs. And I think, but then again, I don't know what the rules would be in terms of calling up a player from the next pro into the playoffs. So I guess that's another thing to look at as well. But definitely for sure, whether he is with the first team or still with Ventura County, Brady Scott is definitely doing wonders, I guess, in terms of those PK shootouts. So definitely for sure, he's a weapon in itself, right? So yeah, but yeah, congrats to Ventura County for getting the PK win in the rivalry game, and hopefully they continue their run just in MLS Next Pro. But yeah, that was Galaxy News. That was Ventura County updates. Let's talk about the previews now, because like we mentioned, we have two previews this week. First one being Colorado at home. Colorado definitely improved since last season. They definitely looked a lot better since last season. Still though, I guess it could be another tough game, and a game where we need to again bounce back at home in front of our fans against Colorado. And yeah, I mean, obviously, I don't think it'll be an easy game, but it's definitely a game we need to win. A game we need to bounce back. Players need to step up, whether that's Joseph Paintsville or whoever the case may be. We got to have a bounce back win again at home. So, how do you feel like going into this game against Colorado, and what are your thoughts about it?
Yeah, this game is absolutely massive. I would call it one of those 6 pointer games for sure. Like right now, we're 5 points ahead of Colorado in the table. So think about it this way: we get the 3 points, we're 8 points ahead of Colorado, who's in fourth place right now, and we get points, to help us stay, towards the top of the Western Conference. We lose the game, we don't get those top points at the Western Conference, and you give Colorado the 3 points, and they're 2 points away from the Galaxy for third place. So it's a huge game, right? It's definitely a huge game at home. Definitely a chance to bounce back. It's going to be very tough though, because we just don't have a lot, in my opinion, right now. Without a striker, I mean, what are we going to do there? Paintsville, I still have a ton of concerns about him. Our defense doesn't look as good as it did a few weeks ago. It seems like we lost sort of that identity. Is the midfield going to play a little bit better? I think this game's important though. I think we have to show up. We need to have a sense of urgency. We need to respond from that Dallas game. But I mean, I don't think we have the players that we could in this game that could give us a better chance. But yeah, definitely an important game for sure. Definitely one we're gonna need to show up for, to say the least.
Yeah, definitely. And just like kind of like how the Minnesota game was last week, it has to be a bounce back win. But I guess the difference is that at least you had your pieces in that game. This one, you're gonna have Dejan out, you're gonna have Julian out, and again, some players have just not been performing the way they have been performing. I guess recently. So yeah, we got to step up in this game. And again, it's at home. It's in front of your fans. I don't know if the supporter groups are still sanctioned. Obviously, that's another thing I forgot to mention in the, I guess, Galaxy News part, is that the team did get fined with all the Rose Bowl stuff. So I don't know if the supporter groups will necessarily be at full force in this game. So that could be a little bit of a, awkward situation at home on Wednesday. But still though, we got to step up no matter what I guess who's in attendance. But still though, you got to win your home games. You got to get the points. You got to get those points at home. And like you mentioned, it's important because like you said, it's kind of like a 6 pointer game, right? It's like you still stick. If you win, you still stay close into the top of the table. And Colorado isn't necessarily on your tail. But if they win or they get a result, then that means that they're much closer to you, and we're sort of dropping into the top spots of the conference. So we got to definitely step up, and I think hopefully the team knows that this is going to be a good game, and especially they got to get these points before going into the All-Star break and Leagues Cup break, and so we definitely got to get one here. And again, I don't know what the solution is going to be on how we step up, but definitely for sure we got to I guess got to get a bounce back. Coming off of that Dallas game. So I think this one's going to be important, just more important just to get sort of the confidence back at least a little bit, after that Dallas performance.
I believe the supporters group was only a 1 game ban, though. I don't think it translates over to this week. I think it was just the Minnesota game.
I'm actually not sure because I know, well, I'm actually not sure. I know they got fined. I know that the league fined the team for the stuff, for the Rose Bowl game. And I know that the last, sanction was a team one, like the Galaxy told them not to go in there, but I don't know what the league is going to do in terms of our supporter groups. So
They should
that's
be
going to
back.
be they should be back, but obviously I don't know what the league is going to impose on them. So
They
obviously
just
that's
gave
going
the
to be.
fine.
I mean, hopefully it's just a fine, but again, that's a pretty hefty fine in itself. But still, though, like I mentioned, like whether supporter groups are there, I guess or not, I mean, the team still got to find a way to bounce back and get a result at home. Against Colorado. And I feel like Colorado is kind of one of those, I guess, a little bit of a sleeper or kind of a dark horse this season. Like they've hasn't necessarily been the best team, but they're definitely a lot better than they were last year. They definitely
They've
still
been
got
pretty
some,
good.
yeah, they definitely got some good results on them this year too. So it's like they definitely could, challenge it in a sense into the Western Conference at some point in the, if they make the playoffs. I think they can challenge a little bit into the playoffs if they make it. And even right now in this stretch, I think they can definitely go try to, find a way to, get on top of, get in the top parts of the table. But we got to, that's where we have to come in. We have to stop that. And like you said, we got to create some separation. At this point, we can't let them get closer. And again, they are a good team, compared to last season. And I think beating them would definitely give the boys some confidence, after that Dallas game. So we got to definitely go in and try to get those 3 points for sure. Yeah. But any other things you want to say about Colorado before we move on?
Yeah, definitely a 6 pointer game for sure. Definitely a very important game for the standings for right now, trying to bounce back. So hopefully we can go at home and take care of business, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully for sure. But even then, we still got another home game after that one against the Portland Timbers. So obviously, again, 2 home games this week. That one, another important game, the Portland Timbers. I don't remember what place they are right now, but still, though, they did get a new coach. They have, Neville in there now, so they're trying to find themselves a new identity as well. But they still are a team that can still compete. They're still a team that's going to be able to try. They're always a team that's going to figure it out at some point. And so the Portland Timbers are still, a tough team to go up against as well, even at home at times. So how do you feel about going up against the Timbers this weekend, and how do you think that one, what are your thoughts about that one?
Yeah, unfortunately, I think it's going to be a loss. I think we're going to lose this game. The Timbers have one loss in their last 10 games. They're playing absolutely incredible right now. They won 4 out of 5 games. They just thrashed Salt Lake 3-0 at home, so they're playing incredible right now. Evander's a dark horse MVP candidate. Rodriguez has been very good. Felipe Mora always scores against us. Anthony's a good winger. They still have Chara, Paredes. And now, like, that Canada is done with Copa America, they're going to be getting Miller back, Crepeau back, who are huge assets in their defense. They've been a lot better defensively recently. I think this is a game where, you're just not going to see the Galaxy have enough. I don't think we'll have enough in the tank to compete with this team. I think they've been playing a lot better than us right now. And honestly, I think it's a game where we might lose by multiple goals. Like, I think this one could get really bad, which is why I think the Colorado game is very important. Like, that's the one where, because they're a little bit closer to us and, we're coming off like a disappointing result. So you at least want to bounce back. So that one's the more important game for me. But for Portland, I don't think we're going to be able to compete with them. I think they're better than us right now. I think they're healthier. I think they're playing better. I think they're clicking more. And I think we're going to be tired and it's not going to be a good game.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, again, it's going to be another tough matchup, and even with the run right now, like the Portland Timbers just still find a way to compete, and seemingly, like you mentioned, like they're finding their way. They're definitely in form, and they're definitely gonna again also try to get at top of the table at some point. And again, like kind of like Colorado, we got to find a way to separate us in a sense. But again, it's definitely a much tougher opponent. It's definitely an opponent that we've had troubles in the past before, and
Well,
I
not under
mean,
Vandy.
well, yeah, I guess under Vandy, not really, but I guess, still though, like we've had some troubles at some points, that, again, not always, but just still we've had some troubles. But still though, we have to, find a way to, again, also get the 3 points, even if it's a tough situation. I will ask you though, like, depending on how we play Colorado, which I guess, we'll have to see once once that happens, but let's say we have a good showing against Colorado, would you have a little bit more faith against going up against the Portland Timbers? Like, does that have an effect on that game, or do you just straight out think that we won't be able to compete in this game?
I don't think we'll beat the Timbers, honestly. I think they'll win, and I think they'll win by multiple goals. Like, they're playing so well right now. 1 loss in the last 10 games, 4 wins in the last 5. Even before they were winning, like, I think 3 in a row, 4 in a row. They've been playing so well. They're clicking on so many cylinders right now with Evander, Rodriguez, more the guys I listed. And the Galaxy just seem disconnected. They're very injured. There's not a solution at the 9. So the Timbers' weakness is defense right now, and we don't have, even a striker to really challenge them. Painter's playing really bad, so I don't think he's going to do much against them. Pooch is not playing at his best. We still have Brugman out, so that kind of hurts the offense a little bit too. I just think this Portland team right now is just levels above the Galaxy, and you might see that going into the weekend, in my opinion. I just think the quality gap, you're going to see it there, and I think the fatigue is going to really catch up to us going into the break. I just think no matter how we do against Colorado, I'm not confident against Portland at all. I think they're going to come in and, really put one on us.
Okay, fair enough.
What do you
That's
think?
fair enough. Um, again, I don't think just I think we still got to find a way to get the 3 points, obviously. But again, it's going to be a challenging. It's going to be a challenging, opponent. Like you mentioned, they're just informed. They're not gonna, and right now we just don't seem that connected. And I ask about the Colorado game, depending how we do there. But even then, it's like, if we do good against Colorado, like I don't know if that's necessarily like the solution or that we're back or anything. Like it's got to be more of a consistent level. But yeah, I mean, obviously, I think going into that game, like, would you be content with a tie? Like if that was the case, like I mean, I think I would as well. Like if we got a I guess a draw in that game, but still, yeah, it's gonna be a very challenging opponent. But still, the Galaxy got to find a way to just find a like I guess try to get the best results that you can this week before going into the break, because obviously we need to get points. We need to at least have a little bit of some confidence back before going on to that break, before taking on Leagues Cup. We got to find at least some sort of confidence back in this one. But like you said, I don't know if that's necessarily going to be this game against the Portland Timbers. It might be the Colorado one, but definitely for the Timbers, we gotta I don't know. Like that's gonna be a tough one, and I don't think 3 points is in our favor, is what I'll say.
I mean, even for Colorado, too, that's a very difficult opponent. They're fourth in the West, only 5 points behind us. They have a lot of really good players. It's always been a team that we've really struggled against over recent years. So even then, that's going to be a very difficult game, too. And, I'll just say this. I'd be surprised if we didn't get our first home loss of the season this week. I don't know if you agree on that, but I think there's a very good chance we're picking up a home loss this week. Even two is a possibility. I mean, I don't want to say it, but like, in my opinion, like we're not favored going into this week. I think Colorado and Portland going into these games should be favored because they have the better teams right now, in my opinion. And that's true because the Galaxy just are missing a lot of guys, and still with the summer window, haven't had the chance to sign players, which is why I said like out of every team in MLS, we're a team that really needs the League's Cup break to come and for these regular season games to take a bit of a pause. Because I just think right now we just struggling to put out a team that's really going to, offer that much.
Yeah, and again, we definitely do need that break. We're, but again though, like I just want to see some sort of confidence back into this game. I think if we get one win out of this week, I think that's going to be. I think I'll be fine with that. Like I mean, I know it's going to be upsetting if we get our first home loss at the Digs, but at the same time, like you said, like we're just not. We're definitely not in form right now compared to these two teams, right? We're definitely having our struggles. We're definitely a bit disconnected for sure. And I think, again, having a break is going to find a way to refocus us a little bit. And again, I think we got to find a way to, at least maximize this week. But I don't know what, again, depending which game, I don't know which one that will be. But we definitely got to find at least something within this week. I think it'd be really disappointing and a bit concerning if we go empty-handed this week, against these two teams.
I'll say this: I think we're closer to going 0-2 than we are to going 2-0. That's kind of how I feel going into this week.
Oh yeah, I don't think we'll go 2-0. I don't think we'll win both games. If we do, I think that's massive. But
I would
like
love
still,
that,
though,
but
yeah, like both. I thought we're not going to complain for sure. But still though, it's something that I don't think it's very likely for us. And but I don't know. And again, it's quick turnarounds too. Like that's not enough time to refocus, regroup, and try to find a solution either, right? So it's going to be a tough week for sure. But if we can find some results within this week, I think that again that would be massive. But I don't know though. So we'll see for sure. But it's definitely two tough opponents and two opponents that we're gonna see down the road as well. So like I mean, we got to find some sort of confidence back. But again, the cards aren't in our favor for this week.
I mean, I would just say too, like you said, like you wanted to find ways to get 3 points, and I agree. You always want to get 3 points in a match, but my problem with this Galaxy team right now is how are we going to get those 3 points? I mean, the defense, yes, it's okay. Like there's some decent parts about it, but it's not like this defense that like, oh, it will keep you in a game or like it will get you the win. Like if you just score 1 goal, 1-0, or it'll get you a draw. Like I don't think it's that level of like respected and that level of talented. And the midfield, like Cerrillo's playing really bad right now. Delgado, is pretty good, but can be kind of on and off either game. Ricky Pooch is, not connecting passes at the level we need him to for this team to be successful. Obviously, Painso, we talked about him for like 5 or 10 minutes, just not, helping the team right now. He's been a negative asset, and it looks like by week, it's not improving for him. We don't have a number 9. I mean, what do you do there? We can talk about that after I'm done with this, but, we tried things last week. It didn't work, and yeah, you have Peck, and that's a great player, and it feels like the only way we're going to win if you're the Galaxy is, Pooch and Peck turn to prime Messi and Neymar. It feels like they have to have an absolute just masterclass for us to win because I don't see how else we win if these two guys just don't go crazy, really.
And I think that's the best way we can win. Like I mean, we've seen Puig and Peck already connected before, and like obviously they can do some good things when they connect. But I think as long as we don't go where everybody is just necessarily not in sync and everybody seems flat and dead, because again, we can talk when we talk about the Dallas game, everybody did not necessarily have a great game. Even the players that we were hoping to step up didn't have a good game. So it's like if Ricky Puig and if Gabriel Peck get back into connecting at some point, maybe we have a good chance. Maybe we have a chance. I don't want to say good chance, but maybe we have a chance of getting a result. But again, it's the matter of players stepping up. And again, Joseph Paintstil has not stepped up. So, and again, like you mentioned, there's points where it just hurts the team. If he can find a way to step up, I think that still helps us in our favor. If the midfield is at least solid, I don't want to say great, but at least solid, doing the simple things right, I think that still gives us a good chance of competing in games and possibly getting results. And so it's just like now that's the point of who's going to step up and who's going to be that guy that didn't step up in the Dallas game. That's also another thing too. It's like players need to step up. Doesn't always have to be the same players, but somebody, even unlikely heroes, have to step up. Like even though we say Barry's not necessarily our backup striker, there was some moments where he's in his 2 goals where I guess you can say he was an unlikely hero. Like we need unlikely heroes too. It doesn't necessarily have to be the star players. It could be a little bit of luck as well going that we need in this week too. So it's like players need to step up. We need a little bit of luck in this week, but yeah, I mean, obviously, I think that's just the main part. Somebody's got to step up, whether it's one player or the whole team. Just somebody's got to step up, within this week.
I'll say this about the striker position too. This is where I'm at on it. Honestly, for this week, I would start Ruben Ramos. Like, that's the guy I want to give a chance to for these next two games. Because think about it. We tried Fagundes at the false nine, which I agreed with, by the way. I thought it was a good idea. Guess what? It didn't work out. All right, we tried it. So we went with Paintsell at the nine. That didn't work out. He just kept drifting out of position. Okay, that didn't work. Miguel Berry, I mean, we know what he offers at this point. It's not a lot. The quality is just not there for that guy. So, okay, that didn't work out. So you look at Ruben Ramos Jr., it's like, okay, he's 17 years old. He's having a really good season with Ventura County. He scored a hat trick in an MLS Next Pro final. So the confidence is there. He plays at an international level for USA and Mexico. He's represented them both. So, okay, he's a talented young player. You don't get called up to national teams if you can't play. So, okay, he has talent, potential. So, like, for the next two games until Leagues Cup, let's just say, like, hey, let's give this guy a chance, in my opinion. Like, I think he translates well to MLS and better for this team than Barry, honestly. Like, I think he's good with his feet. He's stronger than you think. He can be good in the air. I think he can work well with Peck and Pooch. Obviously, the chemistry will not be great because he's never started a game before, but you just look at our solutions. I think that's the solution we have to go with, and I think the one that's going to give us the best chance. And you know what it kind of reminds me of? It kind of reminds me of in 2019 when we had Rolf Felcher and Julian Araujo. Like, yes, you had Rolf Felcher, who was kind of a veteran, and like Miguel Berry, but like he just wasn't very good, and you wanted someone else to come in, and you had this Julian Araujo kid, 17 years old. You didn't really know who he was, but you knew he had talent. And then, eventually he came in, he looked, pretty good, and then, for seasons after, he just kept getting better to the point where he eventually moved on. I'm not saying Ruben Ramos is the next Julian Araujo, but like, let's give the kid a chance because we don't have anything else. And even if it doesn't go well for Ruben Ramos Jr., it's like you're getting the same thing you were getting out of Miguel Berry, but he's 9 years younger, and at least he's developing. Like, let's try that until the summer window in 2 games. I think it's worth a try, and I think it's something we should actually strongly consider.
I mean, you said it's a solution. It's definitely an option, for sure, because solution's more like that's the answer.
For it's 2 games. I don't know.
But again, the solution is more like that's the answer. And again, it could be the solution. I mean, obviously we can see it's definitely an option. Like, you can definitely give him the shot. And again, but I mean, again, like, I don't know if like, I don't want to say like you put a perspective of, yes, he's a talented player. He's definitely a talented youth player. He's done well in, with the U17s, with MLS Next Pro, with international level too, because he got called up into the U.S. youth national team, right? So it's like, he's a talented player. He's definitely a prospect, but it's not necessarily to say it's a solution is a bit of a reach because now you're kind of giving him this sort of like a
for 2 games.
Solution is a very a strong word.
A 2-game solution.
Like but again, that's like you're okay then. But that's like saying like okay, he's going to be the guy who's going to give us the win. Is that how you feel about Ruben Ramos?
Nobody's going to do more than Miguel Berry.
Then it's not a solution. That's not a solution. It's an option. I'm not denying the fact that this could be a good option because, like I said, you need unlikely heroes. Maybe Ruben Ramos is the unlikely hero. That's definitely that's what I'm saying. It's an option. To say it's a solution, now you're giving him a little bit of pressure to say like, okay, now this guy has to be the guy who's going to give us the win, and he could give us the win. I'm not going to say he's not, but it's just like. Again, to say it's the solution is a little bit different. That puts a little bit of pressure again. Again, it could be a good option for these next 2 games, and if it works, it works. That means you develop him, and now he gets his experience, and now you find a way to keep developing him as a player. But again, I think solution is a little bit of a reach, in my opinion.
Well, I just think you're changing the word of solution. Honestly, for me, the 2-game solution is like, what are we going to do these next 2 games? What is the best option? What makes the most sense? What would benefit us the most?
You said option.
And I think the solution to these next 2 games that would be really good is starting Ruben Ramos Jr. I think he would help out. I think he translates well to MLS. I think he would be a good fit around our players. Better than Miguel Berry would be. Better than B-Boot would be. Better than a false 9. Ruben Ramos is a striker, so he's playing his natural position. He should be comfortable. I mean, until League's Cup for 2 games, like, why not, dude? Like, let's give this guy a chance. He's a talented player. Like, let's see what he could offer us. And it's like, even if he doesn't offer a lot, were you really getting much anyways from anybody else? I don't think it's a solution in terms of there's pressure. I think it's a solution in terms of it's a good idea and he's getting development and it's something new. I think in all three of those aspects, it's a very positive thing to possibly try out.
I mean, I like how I caught you on the option part, but I get what you're saying. Like like I get what you're saying. But again, it's just like solution is like saying like that is the answer. But again, it's just like it's a good option. It's an option I think you can try. It's an option because like you said, it's I think it's like a low risk low reward type of deal because it's just like okay like if he or low risk high maybe high reward deal. I don't know how the wording would be, but point is I get what you're saying. Like if he doesn't do good then okay, like you tried something, you give this guy some minutes and more minutes, and maybe you can find a way to, develop him a little bit more. Maybe you say he's not ready, whatever the case may be. Like I understand what you're saying, and then, but if it works, then you're saying like, okay, then let's try it. Let's see what we can do here. Maybe it's a good option for these next 2 games, and maybe it could be a good option from here on going forward. There's a reason why they signed him to a first team deal this year and this season. So it's like the option is there. Like I get that he's an option, but I'm saying calling the solution is a little bit more of a pressure thing. But I understand what you're saying. I don't think I'm necessarily changing up the words. I think you were kind of changing up the words. But again, agree to disagree, whatever the case may be. But again, I don't, I wouldn't mind seeing it, definitely for sure. Like it could be a good option. It could be an option that could work. Because again, at the end of the day, if you're gonna develop youth, you got to give them minutes, you got to give them time, you got to give them playing time, and I think this could be a good week or a week where you give him some good minutes and you get to see what's the best of him for sure.
I think he looked kind of decent in the FC Dallas game. I'd say he looked better than Barry did.
Okay, yeah, and fair enough. Like maybe you give him more minutes. Maybe Vanny sees that maybe he has more to offer, and you give him the opportunity. That like again, you can do it. It's a good option. It's an option. It could be a good option. So definitely something to look for because again, if Barry ain't working, you got to find another option, I guess. And if it's not Fagundes at the false nine or Paintsville at the false nine, then you could resort to that, and it's an option. So that's definitely something the team could look at for sure.
Definitely could work too. Like I have confidence like he could translate well and maybe not be like this elite player. Obviously he's 17 years old. He still has a long, long ways to go, but it can be like a Johnny Perez maybe where you look at this guy on the field and you just think to yourself like, hey, he's pretty good. It's an interesting player we want to keep around, want to continue to develop. If we see him on the field maybe a little bit more often, it's like it might not be a bad thing, right? One of those players, and I think he does have that potential. I think he's very talented. I like his background. And I think, for this weekend, or this week, when we've had solutions that haven't worked, obviously the false nine didn't work. Miguel Berry's offering you basically nothing and he's super slow. He doesn't even fit well on this team. I think you can look at that and say, let's give him a chance and see what he can do against these teams.
Yeah, I mean, again, for young players, if you want to develop them, you got to give them the minutes, right? So, again, this could be a good case of him getting some good minutes. And again, because obviously Barry's not the solution. And again, maybe they do start Barry, but then maybe you give him more minutes in the second half. Like that's something I would like to see, and definitely something that Greg Vanney should consider. Like I don't know if it's necessarily give him the keys to the car necessarily, but it's like, if you want to see him give good minutes and see what he has to offer, it's like, sure, I definitely give him more minutes than what we've seen before, for sure.
I mean, for me, it's a 2-game window, though, because regardless of what happens, I want to sign a striker over the summer. But for these next 2 games, I'm just like, well, we don't really have much anyways. Like, we could just give him a start here and there.
Again, and maybe they do that. Maybe it's something that the team looks at, going into this week. But obviously, I think there's a lot of, questions and decisions that the team has to make, Greg Vanney has to make. And so, again, whatever those decisions are, I mean, that's what we're going to roll with. And hopefully we just find some sort of way to get some sort of result this week. But definitely going to be a tough week and definitely a week where players are going to have to step up. Unlikely heroes are going to have to come into play in these games. And yeah, we gotta find a way to get some points out of this week. Maybe not all the points, but definitely some sort of points to keep us in there for before going into the break. Yeah. But anyways, any other final thoughts you want to take from this week before we close it out?
Yeah, definitely going to be a very tough week for sure. Missing some players going into the League's Cup break right before. I guess the good news is we are at home, right? We are playing in front of our fans. That's really good. We still have the undefeated streak at home. So you want to maintain that. You obviously want a response after that loss in Dallas. But yeah, going to be a tough week for sure. And we need players to step up and we need our DB players to really show out because, like we said, like probably our best chance of winning any game right now when you look at the squad we have is Gabriel Peck and Ricky Pooch just putting on a clinic. Really, it looks like, the best solution at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely players are going to have to step up, and we're going to have to see this team, just play better than what they did against Dallas, because obviously that was probably, again, a result that we got to forget for sure, but definitely a result or definitely an outcome where you got to have a good comeback, going into this week. But, yeah, obviously, like we always say on this show, we can only hope for the best, right? So, we guess we got to see what this week has to offer. But anyways, I think we're going to close it out now. So can't thank you guys enough for watching and listening. If you want to follow me on social media, follow me at Insider Galaxy, Instagram, on X. Go follow LA Galaxy Central on Instagram. And go follow us there. And any other things you want to say to the listeners before we go?
Joseph Painstill, we need you, man.
Yeah, I mean, we need you, Joseph Painstill, because, I believe in Joe Painstill, if you get the reference. But anyways, obviously, players are going to have to step up. Joe Painstill is going to have to step up, and, hopefully we get something. But anyways, thank you guys for listening and watching. Be a friend, tell a friend about the podcast, whenever you're listening to this podcast. And I hope you all have a great rest of your day, rest of your night, rest of your week, whatever the case may be. And, thank you guys. And, G's up.
7 words beat.